Lesser crowd, so I'm just fine with that. Thank you. Welcome, the few of you who are here. I'm appreciative that you're here. This is one of my students, which is always a pleasure to have a student come, and as if they haven't heard me enough in a week, they come and listen some more. I'd like to give you just a little background on what this project was, and then go right into it in terms of your areas that you might be interested in. It was multifaceted. It was a very interesting project. This actually was the $385,000 grant. This was a project that was brought in not through traditional funding, but rather through a number of different players and the help of Dr. Ilmer, this would not have happened because it was so untraditional. To give you a little bit of background, I was in business for a number of years before coming into academia. And I worked in instructional design and technology. I have 2 degrees in education, and I basically worked with training and improving performance of workers. Then I received my PhD here, and I went to Oakland University and joined the academic life. But my ties in the business world in this area in Southeast Michigan were deep. And one day I got a phone call. It was the summer of 2008. I was writing some of the publications that you talked about. It takes forever. And I got a phone call from a company who knew me professionally, and they had a big problem in Dubai. Has anyone been to Dubai here by any chance? You've been. When were you there?
Last I was there was a couple years ago.
Okay, so were you there in the height of all the construction?
Yeah, the construction's always been going on.
Well, I'm so glad you were there, because you can chime in then with me on this, because I did not understand about Dubai.
The islands are being built.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the Atlantis was open. The grand opening of the Atlantis happened while I was there on this project. But anyway, so I want to give you a little bit of a background of the players, because it's so critical, okay? These are the players. I got a phone call from Grubb & Ellis. Grubb & Ellis is an international real estate firm, development firm. They had a relationship with Emaar Properties. Emaar Properties is a real estate development firm in the Middle East, very, very large. Emaar Properties was opening the largest mall in the world, the Dubai Mall. Are any of you familiar with the Burj? It's now called the Burj Al Arab, but it was the Burj Dubai. It was the tallest building in the world. That was under construction. That was connected to the Dubai Mall. So Emaar Properties is building this largest mall in the world, and they had a huge problem. They couldn't figure out how to keep the mall clean with the multicultural workforce they had to bring in. They had unskilled laborers. I'm going to talk a lot about them, because that's where the pedagogy really comes in. So they didn't know how to do it, so they called Grubb & Ellis and they said, would you please help us? Grubb & Ellis did not have any idea how to help on their own, so they called in 2 groups. New Image, which is a cleaning company here in the United States, and they clean big, large properties, and Wayne State University, myself, because they knew that the cleaning company could not teach this workforce, because the workforce is from so many different cultures. So we were the team, and they asked, the one thing that's important to bring up now, because I'm sure you're all wondering, Emaar Properties, the one thing they did not have a shortage of was money. They had a shortage of time, and they had a shortage of skill set, but they did not have a shortage of money. So they begged us to come for just a week. And of course I took this to Dr. Ilmer. Dr. Ilmer said, go. We went for a week to see what this was all about. So in the beginning, we had to kind of look at 1 week at finding out what the problem was, what the scope of work, what the timeline, and then come up with a plan. Wait a minute, I think I'm not, here we are. Here's Dubai. It's very different now, and I'm going to flip over in a minute to some other pictures. To get an idea, this was August of 2008. Dubai was 120 degrees with about a 98% humidity when we landed. We got off the plane, our glasses fogged up. There were 1/3 of all the world's cranes at the time were in Dubai. 1/3 of the world's cranes. They called it Crane City. They were building at an astronomical rate. 30 years ago, this city was a tiny, tiny little city, very old, traditional. They had oil. They realized the oil was running out, and they made a conscious decision to move into the tourism industry, which is why they had all of this building, this massive building going on. In addition to the tourism, what they wanted to do, this is the scope of the work, but I'll get to that in a minute. What they really wanted to do, let me kind of show you. I'll go in a minute. What they really wanted to do was they wanted to make shopping the focus. Dubai is one of those, in the United Arab Emirates, alcohol is not real accepted. It's not everywhere. Shopping is a form of pastime. It's very hot there. They go to the malls, not just to pick things up, but they go as an event. They go as a family event, which is why they decided to build the largest mall in the world. So we flew in. There was the Grubb & Ellis rep, the New Image Cleaning rep, and myself. We flew in for a week in August, and this is what we found. The 4 different cultures were individuals from India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and the Philippines. Does anybody know anything about those cultures? These are rural, the workers we have were unskilled laborers, rural communities. Most of them had never seen a taxi cab, a mall, an inside toilet. They were from farms. They were from very small huts with external cleaning facilities. So the culture shock itself of coming into Dubai was great. They also did not speak any common language, and we had to teach them. So we had to teach them how to clean something they had never seen before using a process that none of them understood because none of them understood English. So those are just some of the constraints. We had huge communication barriers. We had huge multicultural issues. In addition to coming from 4 different countries, we also had the culture of the United Arab Emirates, the Middle Eastern culture, that we were immersed in. There were many layers too. The bottom layer, the unskilled laborer, were from those 4 countries. The next layer were expatriates. So they were also from different cultures. So we were dealing with people from the United Kingdom, from Australia, from Canada, from France, from all different countries that were coming in to work. And then we were dealing with the upper level, which were the nationals, who had their own expectations, and they brought their own culture. So this is a week. We're slapped with all of this. The workers, let's just talk about the workers for a minute. There was a huge lack of skill, huge communication barriers, and they were from different cultures. That was the employee. Instructional, obviously, language barriers. None of them had the ability to speak English, and yet that was one of the organizational goals of Emaar Properties. They wanted their workers, in the end, to have a common language and to speak English, so they threw that on top of us as well. Also, Emaar Properties had they really were socially responsible. I don't know, is anyone familiar with how these workers come in? Many of them pay to come to countries like this to work. They come for 2 years. When they get to the country that they're going to be working in, they surrender their visa. They do not go home. They are there because they're earning income that they ship back home. So their motivation level is very high, but their skill level is very low. And Emaar wanted them to be as productive as possible given what they came from. And they put that on us as well. And they also wanted their workers to perform, obviously. Instructionally, we had this gap in what they could do and what they needed to do, which was huge. And we also had the language, and they had no idea of what these materials were. They didn't understand how to work with any of these materials or what they did. So we had to work with our learner to develop their job, knowledge, and skill, teach them how to continually improve. And what we needed was a multicultural, customized instruction for supervisors and for employees. So that